So today we're talking about friendship. I've noticed that a lot of friends that I have, coworkers, family members, and in my ladies groups online, a lot of women have a lot of problems categorizing their friends properly. And I just want to talk about that today and some of the things I've learned recently. First of all, we have different friend categories. You have a friend, you have a best friend, you have an acquaintance, you have a business coworker, and a lot of people, including myself, have basically gotten those completely confused and overestimated, like, for example, a coworker at work. And you're sitting here telling them all your private business as if they're your really close friend, and they're really not. And so I just want to talk about that and go over all the different types of that today. So for example, a friend, now that I'm looking at what a friend is, that is somebody who actually is an ally. They have your back. They're not just there to come and get all the information from you, find out all your secrets, find out what foundation you use, what color of lipstick, what that nail polish is that they love, and then copycat you and pretend it was their own. A lot of women do that. They pretend to be your friend, and they're basically just there to level themselves up and get all your information. They're actually not a friend at all. So you really have to develop screening and protocols for who is your friend. And the other thing I want to talk about is I was watching that billionaire Mark Cuban, one of his videos, and he brought up a really important topic. And that is every January, he changes his phone number. And whoever makes the cut, they make the cut and they get the new phone number. Everyone else, they don't have that phone number anymore. They don't have access to him. And so every year, he goes through his friend list and just decides who really has been my friend this year or business associate who's currently in my life and who really hasn't. And he only gives that new number to them. And I think that's excellent. It's like almost going through your closet to weed out the clothes you haven't worn in a year. And instead of clothing, it's people. Because that's really necessary, because as women, we tend to take our best friend from high school, for example, that we just call our best friend. But has that best friend really been your best friend this past year or 2 years? Or what kind of friend have they actually been this last year? And that's a good way to look at your friendships for this year. So a lot of times we put a friend in a category that they might have had 20 years ago, back in high school, in your college days, or a former coworker that you actually don't know who they are within these past few years. And I think what he was saying in that video is a really good way to look at it. How has that friend been to you in this last year? Have they supported your current endeavors, your current job? Because a lot of times they were your friend way before you went to college. They might have known you when you were 16, 18 years old. You hadn't been to college yet. You hadn't been married yet for several years. And maybe you hadn't had kids yet. Maybe you went back and got an advanced degree and you changed careers. And you're in a completely different stage in your life. Maybe you went through 5 years of therapy, or in some kind of a 12-step program for the last 15 years. Things might have changed. You might have grown as a person. You might be completely in a different place than when you were friends with that person and they were your drinking buddy out on the weekends going to bar hopping. That was your friend then 15 years ago, but that doesn't mean now that you don't do any of those things anymore and you have a responsible career and you've been through all these years of therapy and you've been doing all this self-work and your friend has not. They are actually not your friend anymore. And you might notice they're taking shots or troll comments towards what you're currently doing. They're trying to put you down. They're trying to say little jabs about your weight, about who you're dating, or if you're married, maybe it's about your partner. They're trying to undermine your job. They're trying to put you down. Why do you got to drive that car? Why do you got to be so fancy with your makeup and your hair? Why do your nails have to be like that? Why do you got to get so dressed up? Why can't you just be casual? You might notice that they start making a lot of comments like that because this friend that you knew is actually not supportive anymore. They'll start bringing up things to you. Oh, that guy you dated 15 years ago, he did such and such and such and such, and you were such a, you made all these mistakes, and they'll start bringing up and dredging up past issues. And you're thinking to yourself, that was 15 years ago. Like, I don't even do those things anymore. I'm not going out to bars on the weekends anymore. I'm not dating, that good looking guy anymore. I only date responsible men with good careers now. I had my fun party days in college or my fun party days in high school, but now I'm a grown adult with responsibilities. And you start to notice that you have a lot of things that are not in common anymore. And you start to notice that your best friend from way back or your friend, they're actually not a friend anymore. And you can really tell the jealousy when you go out in some kind of a group. I've had this happen to me quite a lot with business associates. I decide to bring that friend that I've been friends with for 15 or 20 years out with this new group of business associates that I have. And they start bringing up crazy stuff from your spouse from like 20 years ago, or your boyfriend from all these years ago. And you're thinking to yourself, wait a second, these are my business associates. This is not appropriate. This is personal information that because you've been my friend, and now you're throwing it out there trying to basically tarnish my image or slander my name in front of these new business associates that I don't discuss personal business with. These are business associates which are on an acquaintance level. They don't know my personal business. They don't know all the mistakes of my past from 15, 20, or 30 years ago. And I don't want them to know those things. Because why? Because these are business associates and we keep it on a professional level. I've had that happen to me with numerous friends that I've brought. They're just bringing up things that I can't believe it and just blurting out in front of everyone. And I thought to myself, wow, this is not really a friend that I should have anymore around other people, first of all. And do I even want to have this friend even categorized as a friend? And I started really rethinking these categories. I started thinking about this because a friend, number one, is an ally. They are, as described by this other YouTuber, she described them as a purpose partner. A friend should be a purpose partner. What is the purpose of this friend? Or do they have no purpose? Are they trying to ruin your purpose? Are they trying to sabotage you? And by purpose, that means this is my friend that is very close to me and we work out together. We go to the gym. We're trying to get fit and healthy. We're trying to do our workout routines. We're trying to eat healthy, nutritious food together. And that is the purpose of this friend. Another friend might be a business friend. This purpose of this business friend is we are trying to grow our business. Like I worked in sales, for example, for 23 years as a senior account manager. And so we're trying to think of the best marketing strategies to increase our business, to get new customers. Any kind of problem we have with a customer where they're trying to grind you on the prices, for example, what are some tips and tricks to overcome that and maintain the price level? That is a purpose partner. That is somebody that we're trying to increase sales, overcome customer objections, and just become better salespeople. And I've had a lot of friends like that we've worked together and do some kind of teamwork and feedback to help each other in business. That is a good purpose partner. And if you have kids, for the ladies that have kids, they might have mommy and me groups and you are carpooling with other mothers, you're getting together for play dates. And the purpose of those friends is to support each other as parents with the kids. So these are some examples. Now, your high school drinking buddy, what is their purpose? You no longer go out to bars anymore. You don't drink. You quit drinking 10, 15 years ago. And this person still goes out and does the same activities. They're still out drinking every weekend. They're still out carousing with random dusty men that are no good, brokies with absolutely no career objective. They're playing video games, for example, or they're just, I don't know, they're not pursuing the same type of lifestyle that you are anymore. They had a purpose back in your college days. They were your drinking buddy. You went out and had fun together, but now they are not a purpose partner anymore. And I'm just throwing that out as an example because we as women, myself and other women I know, we all have women like that. And so this is the kind of person, not that they're a bad person, it's just they don't really serve a purpose anymore. And so you might want to just distance yourself. But I think it's a good idea. That was my other major point in this video, is to recategorize friends on a yearly basis. And what I mean by that is, if this was your best friend this year over the last year, maybe they need to be demoted to just a friend, or maybe they need to be demoted to just an acquaintance. Maybe they're just a business associate. Maybe they are just a former neighbor, a former acquaintance, or whatever category you want to put them on. But they need to be moved out of the category of best friend or close friend or friend. And another thing I've learned too is kind of a tough thing to talk about, perhaps for a lot of women. They might say, oh, you're not being your genuine self. But there's a YouTuber, Shira7, who made this point for her daughters, actually. She had 2 teen daughters. And she was telling her daughters, when you have a friend, today's friend is tomorrow's enemy or potential enemy. And do not share any personal business or personal secrets with your best friend, your friend, or any kind of friend. Don't ever do it. And if they insist on knowing your secrets, or they're not going to be satisfied unless you share and trauma bond with them, which is something not to do, she said, give them a fake secret, or tell a secret that's really not a secret and you don't really care about it. And I'm trying to think of an example for that, but maybe your true secrets are something that's more important, but you just kind of come up with a very small secret that's really not that important. And just see if when you break up the friendship or this friend becomes jealous of you, that they don't tell everyone the secret. And when they do that, you're just going to be like, well, that was just, something that wasn't really that important to you. And it was a fake secret anyway. So she told her daughter that her daughters never tell any secrets to a friend. And I can't tell you how many secrets that I've had from friends thrown in my face in an unbelievable basis. I remember I had this best friend actually who was a former coworker who should have remained a coworker and been readjusted from best friend down to acquaintance, because that's really what should have happened. But I, like most women, were thinking, oh, it's my best friend, so they're my best friend forever until the end of time, just like, Oprah and Gail. But she had clearly shown she should have been demoted back to former coworker, acquaintance. And she had been single for many years and finally got this horrible boyfriend that was just the biggest D-bag I've ever met in my life, with a big giant head. I call him Mr. Potato Head. So she told Mr. Potato Head all of my personal secrets that I had told her over the last 15 years. And we went over there to a party, and I brought somebody who really didn't know any of my personal business, nor did I want this girl to know any of my personal business, to the party as my guest. And this guy, Mr. Potato Head, just blurts out all of my most private best friend stories I had shared with my best friend over the last 15 years in front of a whole group of 30 strangers that were at the party. And I looked at my best friend, or thought she was my best friend at the time, this was a few best friends ago, so this is an old story. And she just looked like a little snide face. And I thought, wow, this girl actually is jealous of me. I had no idea. And so I turned to my friend. I was like, hey, it's time for us to get going. Let's go ahead. And I was like, I did say something polite, like, wow, these things that you're saying are not really true. And, this isn't something really for the topic of a conversation. And I just turned to my friend and I was like, we got to get going. And we left immediately. We gathered our stuff within like 2 minutes. I just waved goodbye. I didn't even hug anyone, and we just jetted out. And that was one of the I think that was the last time I saw this friend. I just thought, this friend is no longer a friend. Like, somewhere over the years, she got jealous and told all my private secrets to this potato head. And I learned, when I heard that story from Shira, I thought that's a perfect example of that. Like, I really should have never confided in this girl. I should have probably never raised her up from being a work acquaintance to a best friend. Like, she's a former business associate, and I should have just kept her at that level and not shared any of my personal information. And I learned too from Shira 7, when she was sharing that, it really is the smartest option to never share any personal details with your best friends or any friend or any acquaintance especially. And what you want to do is you want to go to a therapist who doesn't treat like your husband or anything like that, or go, treat anybody that in case they gossip, which happened to me as well. And just, tell that person your private information, or an online therapist, or whatever you want to do, or write it in your journal. That way you can review your notes 15, 20 years later, and maybe you have the solution then. Whatever you want to do. So now, at this stage in my life, I've really learned it's actually better to have 30 acquaintances or more. Just have a bunch of acquaintances that you keep separate based on the purpose, partnership of that particular relationship with that person, and just keep them all separate. Keep all your private business to yourself. Just share it alone to a therapist, and at least know somebody for at least 2 years, and judge their character over that 2 years, 3 years, or whatever it is, before you raise them up from an acquaintance to a friend. Like, that to me is a good length of time, because that's really the length of time you might wait to date somebody or get engaged to an actual relationship partner. But think about it. A bad friend who doesn't belong to be a friend, who might just belong in the acquaintance category, that should really, a lot of women, like in 3-4 times we go out with somebody, we've already called somebody our friend. But we screen a man for 2 years? And really, the friend can do so much more havoc and damage in your life. They can get you fired from your job. They can slander your reputation with business associates. They can try to destroy your reputation, slander, ruin all your friendships. Like, I've had dismantle so many things you've set up in your life because they're jealous, and it comes out after a couple years. So I've learned now, really, it's best as a woman, if you're very attractive and successful, to really, really screen your friendships over a couple years before you call anyone a friend, just like you would a dating partnership before you get married, because that friend can be way more damaging in your life than that man that you are now married to or engaged, and you wait at least a couple years and get to know him first before engagement, or even live with them. So anyway, that's really my talk for today. I have a lot more to say on this topic, but I'll save that for another video. Thanks for sticking in here to the end. And also, I want to apologize for the long gap between videos. I've decided to kind of change the course of my channel and make it to more of a level up journey channel instead of like beauty and fashion channel, because basically I'm more interested right now in just the level up journey, including everything, all areas of your life, not just, makeup and beauty and fashion and things like that anymore. So I'm just going to widen the scope basically. But anyway, thanks for hanging in here. I appreciate it. and I will talk to you later.